Hello, welcome to my video. So today I'm going to show you how you can install MX Linux with preserving your Windows 11 installation. So we are going to use UEFI boot exclusively on this installation, so keep that in mind. So yeah, let's first prepare our USB drive. So grab at least 8 gig USB drive. Prepare that, and now let's first get the software that we need. So we're just going to use WinToy for this setup, so I'm just going to grab WinToy. Okay, just grab WinToy, so click on downloads and don't accept. Okay, let's grab the Windows installation since we're using Windows 11, and let's save that in our desktop. Okay, we grabbed WinToy, and now let's grab the MX Linux ISO. So right now that's the first link, exactly. So just click on download. Now in here we have to pay attention really closely. You should either install this version or this version. Now if you have a new end hardware, so if your system is like 2 or 3 years old, I highly recommend installing either one of these. So I'm going to install the flagship XFC version. If there's any difference, I might make a video about exclusively for the KD version, but we're only going to focus on this version. Although all of these KD versions should be identical, except the fact that this should have better hardware support. We're not considering the Raspberry Pi, that's dedicated operating system, a dedicated hardware. But whatever, I already got this, so I'm just gonna grab it from my downloads and put it in the desktop. Okay, so we got our files, WinToy and the MX Linux ISO. First, let's just extract this file. You don't have to have any extra software for this. Windows will already do it. Okay, so let's click on it, and here's the program. Just double click on it and click on yes. Okay, we got the program running. So we're just gonna change one setting here. I'm changing this to MBR to GPT. It doesn't really matter, but since the current partition table that we're using is GPT, and everything that we're going to use is going to use the partitioning table called GPT, except MBR. MBR is more older and it's more used in BIOS boot systems. Although Linux can boot on it, Windows can, so I'm really just going to use GPT here. It doesn't really matter, but you should choose GPT as well. So let's just click install after that, and pay attention that everything will be wiped in your ISO, in your USB drive, so keep that in mind. So we're wiping it, and make sure you select the right device. Just like I said, everything will be wiped in that. We're just preserving the Windows installation, not our USB. So that's fine. We did it. Now we can close the program. Now we don't need this WinToy ISOs and folder. Now we got the ISO right. Just copy this to our USB drive that we currently created. Look, there's a WinToy folder here, so I'm just gonna click on that and just paste it over here. So just put the ISO in your USB drive, this WinToy folder, so that will be fine for you. And now we're just gonna create the partitioning the drive, in other words, so that we can actually install MX Linux. So I'm just gonna right click on the start menu and click on the disk management, and while it's also copying this to our USB drive. So here. Now this is our USB drive and this is our Windows installation. Now this is the boot sector where it makes the OS boot in the easiest way. It's 100 megabytes, it's really small, but Linux and Windows are going to be sharing this folder, so really pay attention to this. We're not going to format this, and we're never really going to worry about this. This is the recovery partition for Windows. It's really not necessary for us to touch that because that's just what Windows uses. You're not really needing anything from that. So we're just gonna shrink this partition, which is 63 gigs. I'm most likely expecting your OS to have more storage than this, but okay, it doesn't really matter. The process is exactly the same. So we're just going to click on shrink. Wait, let's give it a second. Okay, now this will give us the maximum amount of shrinkability. So this would be the maximum amount that we can shrink, but let's just give Windows a little bit of wiggle room. So let's say this. So if you don't understand this, how much this stands for, you could just Google a megabyte to gigabyte or something like that. There will be a conversion tool like this. You can just flop it in here to see how much that actually is. So let's copy that and paste it here. There we go. So it's 32 gigs, but already you can just put like one dot here and would understand. But if you really have to be making sure with something like your data is really important in this situation, you can check it in the internet in your calculator. So let's click on do that, and it's shrinked it. We're not really gonna make a new volume or anything. We're gonna do that in the MX Linux installation. So we're just gonna close that. So everything is done right now in the Windows part. So we're currently going to reboot. Now, while we are rebooting, I'm just gonna click on the escape key. In your system, it might differ. You just try the function keys. One of them should just give you an option to boot from a different drive. So there we go, we entered it. So now your BIOS would be different from mine. So this could be a little different, but it's basically you have to just select USB or something written WinToy or something like that. So I'm clicking on that, and it's just gonna show our WinToy menu right now, and there we go. So let's just click on our ISO, click normal boot, and also if it fails to boot here, it does have an option to use secure boot in this WinToy menu, but it might fail still. So you can go into BIOS and disable secure boot if your system is not booting. Okay, let it boot. Also, you should pay attention to the other components like secure boot and TPM and stuff. Although TPM won't be utilized in MX Linux, it is important for your Windows installation, so don't touch that, or else we'll just assume it's not a supported hardware or something. I mean, it's not important for MX Linux though. So we're almost finished booting up. Okay, yeah, it's finished. So I'm just gonna it's gonna open up like the home. Okay, yeah, the welcome menu. I'm just gonna put that aside for a second. Where is it? Just going to give it a different display resolution that fits the display completely. Okay, yeah, this will do, I guess. Okay, yeah, that works. So let's close that. Now we're just gonna click on the install Linux, MX Linux part. This checking is really important for your to know that the ISO that you downloaded is completely functional. I'm just gonna skip it because it's just taking some time, but I highly recommend you don't skip this when you're going to install your system. Okay, yeah, this is correct for us because we're gonna do custom. This will wipe your Windows installation and install Linux, and we don't want that, so let's click next. Now, since we don't have the same thing configured yet, we're just gonna click on this tab here to format stuff for our liking. So here we got the unlocated drive here, 32 gigs. We're just gonna right click on that, click on new, okay, and we're just gonna format it as ext4, and that's right, everything's correct. We're not gonna touch the UEFI partition, we're not gonna modify anything else, we're just creating a new partition, nothing else. Okay, let that do its thing. This won't take much time, just formatting the drive. If you wanted to do something like home and root partition, you could have just dragged that little slider that showed up, like just something like this showed up. You can drag that around and make /home and just slash endpoints so that you can have separate root and home, but we're not going to do that right now. If you want to, just like I told you, it would be working perfectly fine. So let's just full screen this. Now this is our USB drive, and this SDA is also a USB drive. We're gonna pay attention to this part, which is our current operating system is installed, or Windows partition, and everything is installed over here. So here, this is our boot partition. This is gonna be our both Windows and Linux's boot partition. In order to make this our Linux's boot partition, we're just gonna copy this text and just paste it over here. Now this will configure this to MX Linux to be the boot partition, and also select preserve here. Unless you just select like FAT32 or FAT16, it will completely format this and you won't be able to boot it to your Windows, because that's your bootloader. We're not really wiping the bootloader of Windows, we're just adding the Linux as an option. So after that, this is going to be our ext4. Don't select the NTFS, select the ext4 and just click here, and that will just put MX Linux here. So after everything is done, we can format it or preserve it here. No, actually, no, just click on ext4. It's just, everything's a lot better here. And yeah, okay, we're starting the boot procedure. Here, if you were still using legacy boot, you would select MBR and other things, but since we are going to use UEFI boot, we're not going to touch this part. Everything's correctly selected already. We did that just before. And I do kind of recommend using hibernation if you like to just keep your system alive a long time. It just basically keeps all of your programs open, but it completely shuts down your system. If you want that feature, you can just select that. And just to make things faster, I'm just going to completely select this off. But I do kind of recommend having a swap file. It doesn't hurt. Although you could create it later on if you want to. Let's keep everything same. It just doesn't really matter here. And here you should just select here and look at things that you really don't need. Like if you don't have Bluetooth in your system, just uncheck this. It will be a useless resources, so, or maybe printer service or something. But we're just gonna keep it as default. Just they will be installed anyways. It's just that the service will run every single time you boot. You can configure that as well after you install your system, but it's easier to just do it right now. So let's just give our system a username. Please get a better password than this. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes only. You can create a root account. It's not really necessary, and you can do it later on. But it's just better to just have a normal user account with sudo permissions. So let's continue, and it's almost finished by now. You can see the logs. If there's any errors, you just go to system log here and see if there's anything wrong. And it looks like there's no wrong in part of this installation right now. Everything seems to be working just fine. Yep. And it's almost finished anyways. I did kind of forgot to show you, there was also just keep the live settings preserved as a tick here. If you did change some settings here, like I changed the resolution here, if I wanted the preserved to my main OS that I'm going to be using with this MX Linux installation, I could have just kept, kept the live settings in my current installation, and I would have that feature. But I didn't really change anything. If you did like customize the theme here, you wanted it to be applied into your main OS, you should check that. So I'm just gonna wait until it finishes. Okay, it's finished. So it says prompt us to reboot. and we don't really need to do anything else here, so we're just gonna click on finish. So right now, while it's booting, it's just going to ask, do you want to boot up into Windows or Linux? So we're just gonna wait, see if that's what's exactly that's happening. Okay, and yeah, exactly, we just have the option to boot into Windows and Linux. So let's just see if Linux is installed and working properly, and then we'll just test if Windows is completely intact. And I guess then I would wrap up this video. Okay, it's kind of a fancy boot up screen actually. I like it. It's kind of more fun than Windows is, for sure. Just a little spinning wheel with a window that is blue, whatever. Okay, and just write our password, and it looks like everything's functional right now. Let's wait a couple of more seconds. Okay, yeah, everything just looks like it works. We got the welcome menu again without the install option because we already installed it. And yeah, it looks perfectly fine. So let's go back to the Windows installation. Let's see if it works as well. Okay. And as you can see, we see the boot logo. And yeah, I mean, that was all for this tutorial. I mean, I think it was really easy. I did show it in the same partition as, like, we didn't use a second drive. It was in the same drive. The Windows and Linux are just living in the same drive right now. We could make a setup where they are in different drives. Let me know if you want that too. I mean, they're really similar. I would just get like a really short video out for that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, like if you were able to do this successfully. Or you just liked watching this. It doesn't matter.